This card is insane. Humans of the cardboard, welcome back to Just Nuts, guys. Today we are looking at super good applications for News Reporter from the Underworld. This card's pretty insane. It's just kind of like a generic Fiend support card. Generic Link 2, takes any 2 effect monsters. Can't be used as link material the turn it's summoned, but and also, if a monster you control would be destroyed by battle or card effect, you contribute any Fiend monster you control instead. Extra little protection, whatever. But the main effect is that you can target any Fiend monster in grave, special summon it, then discard 1 card from your hand. That is by effect, by the way, for Dark Worlds, even crazier there. But yeah, it does lock you into Fiends for the rest of the turn after you use it, but I think that's pretty fair considering how generic of a monster this is to just be reborning any Fiends in the game. So I'm going to be showing you a bunch of applications here. We're going to go to some replays. I've got 10, I do have 10. I have 10 separate replays here that will show off cool little scenarios about this. Now, one thing I do want to point out here before we get into this, most of what I'm going to be showing off here is, whoa, what is that? Nope. Is going to be with Tour Guide. Not every deck has to be doing this as Tour Guide. It just represents a 1.5 card play that gets you into the Link 2, any Fiend in grave, and just kind of set up to reborn any Fiend. Now, there'll be some applications where some decks you'll look at this and go, like Burning Abyss should be playing probably more Tour Guides now, and maybe also playing Fiendish Rhino Warrior again, just for these kinds of crazy interactions. But you'll see as we go. Let's start off here with number 1. This one I think is a Lilith line. So we're going to summon out Lilith. Yep. You make the News Reporter, and then you just reborn the Lilith, and now you can Lilith, tributing the News Reporter to get yourself Artifact Sanctum here, or any other 3-of trap that you want. We could see artifacts get banned. Maybe it's Dimension, Barrier, whatever. But obviously insanely powerful. It turns Tour Guide plus any discard in hand into a 2,000 attack live effect Lilith on field that you keep into future turns, and any trap, any normal trap of your dreams. Really powerful value there. So let's head out on that one. Moving on to the next one. Same thing, but just keep in mind, like I was saying, without Tour Guide, even just your deck, as long as you get whatever the Fiend is you want in your, hold on, let me pause this. We're doing the same thing here, but going for Arima. But as long as your deck is going to be able to put any 2 effect monsters on the field with whatever Fiend you really want to reborn in grave, like this just becomes available to you. So it's just insane. But this time we're actually going for an Arima play, which is really interesting. Here, but this shows you the way we go Tour Guide into Fiendish Rhino Warrior, and this is how you get access to any non-level 3 Fiend via this, if you're going the Tour Guide route, because you're able to just send any level Fiend, and luckily this card has no restrictions level-wise. So we're going to send the Arima, which is level 4, bring it back, then tribute the girl to search Diabolos, because Arima says if you tribute a dark that isn't himself, you can just search any monster with any dark monster with 2,000 or more attack. Or defense, I mean. So you get Diabolos. It didn't let me trigger it here, but I'm almost positive. Oh, it's because we're Fiend locked. Okay, so this was a bad example, but I can explain it out a little bit more. You could easily just get the draw one off of Arima, or search any other high-level Fiend monster, or high-stat Fiend monster, I should say. Something like Lady of the Labyrinth is really cool. I also think you can search... what is he called? Lord of the Heavenly Prison to protect your back row, which is really huge. So there's still some niche other searches. I forgot that Diabolos is not Fiend. It always gets me because the whole archetype is Fiend except randomly him. I get it, he is a dragon, but still, it just kind of irks me sometimes, but still, you get the picture. Next up here, we move to something else. Well, I'm gonna see it as we go through it. Okay, going into the Fiendish Rhino Warrior, he's going to send us the Labyrinth girl, Ariana. So she's going to come back, she's going to then search us our trap, and we are going to set it. So pretty cool little nifty play here. Tour Guide gets us access to Ariana here. Tour Guide plus a discard gets us Ariana. Keep the Link monster on field, which does matter. His protection effect's kind of nice, because you want to keep Ariana on field. So like being able to like make your opponent pick one at times and not be able to clear both can be kind of annoying for them. And then this could be Welcome Labyrinth. This could also be Lady of the Labyrinth, like I was talking about, the big monster, the big Chungus monster that gets you follow-up, depending on what the rest of your hand looked like, but still solid value, all in all. Moving on from there, let's see. Next up, going for the Rhino Warrior, and you know, we'll have to see. Oh, Unchained, really cool one here. There's so many different interactions with Unchained because you can potentially send this guy, Unchained Soul of Disaster, or the Abominable Unchained Soul, or Sarama, and they kind of all offer different things to you. If you reborn the Abominable Unchained Soul, he could then trigger to discard a card to just pop a card your opponent controls. You could go for Sarama, which then could set and pop another Unchained card from your graveyard to just get you extra value, summon again from deck into something like Soul of Disaster if he's not in your graveyard. Or if you just straight up go for him because he's in your grave, the Soul of Disaster, you're then able to link away with an opponent's monster into your Soul of, I think it's Rage is the link 2, potentially even the link 3 depending on what your opponent has, to make Anguish, but still in a pretty good position, especially since that whole archetype is Fiend. The lock on the link monster is not really hindering you too much. It's pretty dang good. And even if they negate this, you could still link these two off up into more Fiend monsters, whether it's Anguish to then just stake their monster and link away again down into Rage. That way you clear another monster, but also get into an interruption as well. Pretty cool. I think this card will be a staple in Unchained for sure. And it kind of opens up the possibility to play more extenders, just to be able to go into this and reborn something just by putting bodies, because it is generic. This card doesn't take Fiends to make, which is really good. Next up, number 5. Some of these are going to start getting pretty niche. A lot of these first ones are like archetype based, but these are going to start getting a little more niche as we get there. So this one is a little more niche. This is Backjack. If you're playing a trap based deck, but I guess this kind of goes hand in hand with like Trap BA, right? They like to play Backjack anyway, but being able to send Backjack off of the Rhino to get a look at some traps, then obviously use Backjack on the opponent's turn to set that trap, assuming you hit one, or if you didn't hit one, you're almost always, even if you didn't, hitting like another BA monster that's probably an interruption or value in some way. So I'm not like too beat up about it. Also, this puts Fiendish Rhino Warrior back on the field, which means you could then, if you're playing Trap BA here, you would be able to special a BA here, go in, and then start going into Dante, right? And start popping off with like Dante Mills and other stuff as well, while also setting up like that trap line. So I do think this also has extra merit in Trap BA as well, which is really, really cool. And even this play here is pretty cool. You'll see this a little later on as well, where like the monster we send is not necessarily worth reborning. So I'm like, screw it. Let's just reborn Rhino Warrior. Now we're gonna pass here, and I'm gonna do anything else. And when our opponent tries to play, we've now got like these two monsters where if they try to destroy her, she's going to tribute the Rhino Warrior, and then he's going to trigger to get a send for a Farfa, an Alich, or a Skarm for follow-up, whatever it is, and actually just get you even more value. And it just becomes kind of sticky. They want to shuffle these back into the deck, if anything, but not destroy them, because you're just going to get more and more value, which is pretty cool. All right, let's get into the more niche ones here. Continue on. At least, tour guide for Rhino Warrior. Rhino Warrior, send Iza. Okay, this is another interesting one. And even if you don't start playing like Tour Guide in Grand Maju, I could see a scenario where they just start playing this in the extra. Like worst case scenario, like everything gets stopped, but they're able to just make this, reborn Grand Maju, and just punch their opponent for game. Now, the one downside of this play, this 1.5 card play, no guaranteed banishes, but there are a lot of like combo decks that do banishing on their own. There's a lot of pot cards. Your opponent could be banishing stuff. You'll be seeing your pot cards to banish. Like, you're going to get some cards banished most likely in that deck. So I do still think that's an interesting little interaction. All right, into the next one here. Going for the Rhino Warrior. Sending this card, Archfiend. Is it Empress? I think she's Empress, right? Oh, or Eris. I think she's actually Eris. Oh, shoot. Okay, long story short, Eris, when she's sent by a card effect to the graveyard, she can search any Archfiend card in the game. So technically, even in an Archfiend deck, you could use that to search any of the other cards they have. But as a more generic option, I showed it there. You can search Archfiend Glitch, the new card coming in Tactical Masters. It says if you control a Fiend, target a card your opponent controls, destroy it, and then send one Fiend from your deck to the graveyard. So like pop a card, then send a Farfa. Send an Alich, send a Scarm for follow-up. Like, it's a really, really powerful card that like becomes a lot more searchable just by having that card in your deck. Plus, it's sent generically by card effect, which means even if you draw it and you're like, oh no, I saw a brick, you just make the News Reporter, and since News Reporter discards as effect, it still triggers her. So you get to send and reborn something else while still being able to like trigger the effect and get the trap to hand. It's pretty sweet. All right, let's get to the last couple here. Tour Guide into Rhino. Take those into the News Reporter. Oh, I'm sorry, into Sangan. I'm sorry. Now, Sangan's searching you a hand trap, and then you just reborn the Sangan. Kind of same sticky setup as the Rhino Warrior setup, where like now you've got pick your poison. Whatever you go for, I'm going to send Sangan, and then Sangan's going to get me either another hand trap or a follow-up for next turn. So it's kind of just a niche little play there. Guarantees you 1 interruption plus a little bit of grindability here as well. Not too shabby. All right, Tour Guide, you know this. Tour Guide into Rhino. We're going to go News Reporter. Rhino's going to send Decatron. This is another archetypal one, which I do think is pretty interesting. And then obviously from here, you just use Decatron, send whichever Infernoid you want to copy the effects of to at least become a DD Crow, maybe one of the negate ones as well, depending on your scenario. But pretty cool. Long story short, this could just start being an addition to the deck, because sometimes I know that Infernoids can struggle to actually find their way to Decatron at times, or not necessarily struggle to find it, but more so like if they don't find it, they just lose. So this could be additional normal summons that just help you get to Decatron at times, and that could be pretty good for consistency. But you do have to play the Fiendish Rhino Warrior if you do, so keep that in mind, although that's not like the worst thing in the world. All right, and the last one here, number 10. Let's throw it out there. Tour Guide into Rhino Warrior, into News Reporter. Rhino Warrior to send Token Collector. This is the last one I wanted to make note of. Now, it's important to keep in mind that Sword Soul probably won't be a super meta threat going forward with the new meta, and they just seem outclassed overall. I'm sure we'll see it as like a more of a rogue deck now, like a high-end rogue deck, but still, it is going to fall off quite a bit, I would imagine. But yeah. If we have either Sword Soul come back in as like a meta deck again, or maybe another deck come out that's a combo based deck that kind of needs to generate a ton of tokens to play, this play becomes pretty interesting. And just playing Fiendish Rhino Warrior means you have pretty easy access to Token Collector whenever you want, because it's one of those few hand traps that works from grave as well as hand. So interesting to note. Not super, super important going forward, but you never know. It's just it's like a niche little interaction to keep in mind. Maybe even for side deck. If there just is a solid deck that plays tokens in the meta, you just maybe play one Token Collector in the side. For when you're in that matchup and you have access to just dumping him, that's the kind of card that just straight up wins those kinds of matchups. So you should, if you have a play to get super easy access to it, you should probably try and make use of it. And if it's only going to cost you one side deck slot, could be worth it. But yeah, that's it for today, guys. Pretty cool stuff. Obviously, I want to hear in the comments down below, are there any other things to keep in mind? These were pretty simple plays, but it kind of gives you the idea of like what decks could try and make use of this. Even if they're not going to play the Tour Guide package, the Fiendish Rhino Warrior, that kind of stuff, a lot of these decks probably just will, especially the Pure Fiend ones, will probably just throw this card in the extra, because it does help them extend through certain situations and get some of their monsters back. Maybe if their deck doesn't necessarily get those back as easy. I know Lair is definitely one of those decks. So very, very cool to see. Definitely let me know your thoughts down below and what you think about maybe some other plays that could come up. Definitely let me know in the comment section on that. But yeah, really, really cool card. Cannot wait to mess around with this in my Fiend decks. But I'm out of here. Thank you so much for watching. As always, guys, subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content like this down the line. And follow me on Twitter. Link below. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.